Welcome to the show, guys. We have Lucy Smith here today, and she's the Vice President of Sales over at Reimagined Roots. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and give a brief background into the company of Reimagined Roots and what their goals and visions are. So welcome, Lucy, to the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Dominic. And I'm really excited to talk about what we're doing over at Reimagined Roots. So our mission is to revolutionize the American grass lawn for a more resilient future. And what that looks like is replacing lawn with native plants, edibles, medicinals, and really encouraging people to reintegrate into their landscape. I think about when you buy a house, you don't need to just use the outdoor walkway and, travel from your car to the front door and that be kind of the whole experience. You can visit those far corners of the landscape and put things there that you're really excited to interact with, whether it's medicinal plants, a pollinator garden, and a whole host of other sort of pieces. So my background is in economics and Holocaust and genocide studies, actually. And my partner's background is in mechanical engineering. And so with my sort of humanities bent and interest in making sure that people feel a sense of purpose and understanding that when times get tough, having a connection with the world around you is a really important part of kind of keeping going. And then being able to engineer systems through a permaculture lens, which is what we're based in, which is a design science that mimics Mother Nature, essentially. So engineering systems that make the maintenance and the, upkeep and also implementation of some of these landscape features easy and make sense for the world we live in today, because a lot of people are not, you can't really have a full-time job and have a homestead and have both of those things going well at the same time. So you need to engineer it pretty cleverly.
Awesome. Can you give some of the listeners an example of what a system might look like, or something on a small scale, something on a large scale, just so they have an idea?
Yeah, totally. So let's say, most people have gutters on their house, and if you don't have gutters and you put gutters on, you will see that it solves a lot of your water erosion issues, because now there is a designated space for that water to run off, especially in new construction when soil is pretty typically poor. So what we would do is we would say, for the example of having a new build, for instance, is we would pipe those gutters into some sort of a water catchment basin. So that could be underneath a permeable patio, that could be in a dry well, and we would try to utilize that water on site. And so we're really looking at everything that you have on site is a resource, whether it's water. Right now we're doing fall cleanups, and leaves are a resource for mulch, and so keeping all of these inputs on site rather than paying to have them removed from the property and then maybe paying to bring what they could have been used for back to the property. And so we would pipe those gutters into some sort of underground water catchment system, maybe re-infiltrate that water through a bubbling fountain that keeps it filtered, but then can also double as some sort of irrigation for a veggie garden that is surrounding the permeable patio. And so now you have all of these features that you're really excited to interact with that are also solving the water runoff issue that you're having if you just kind of have gutters going into your lawn and, maybe eroding a designated path down to the neighbors or, down to the street. So yeah, that's a pretty solid example of that problem-solving approach anyway.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So I know that one was kind of tailored to maybe a new construction residential type of scenario. Can you elaborate on other projects? Do you only do residential? Do you do commercial? What other areas do you guys dabble in?
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for this work in, of course, residential, but in commercial and in public spaces. So we do have a few projects that we're working with the city of Worcester on right now, maintaining rain gardens and redesigning rain gardens. So that kind of public infrastructure. But I really am passionate about those projects where we're able to positively impact folks that maybe don't own land. And so you can think about an apartment complex or a work headquarters that there are folks that need to have lunch and need to take a walk midday or something, and to create spaces that are really engaging for those people when they're in a space that maybe isn't their home. So raised bed planters with a sub-irrigation system. So essentially, it catches rainwater and holds it in the bottom of the planter. And then that allows for, say, an herb garden on the rooftop of some, insurance company or something, where people are maybe going and having their lunch at a picnic table. There's a couple herb gardens up there that no one really needs to maintain because they're capturing their own rainwater to stay watered. Now you can grab some fresh herbs for your salad or something like that. And so this work is definitely super duper scalable, and we do work on kind of all of those scales. At this point, so we're in year 5 right now, and I would say 80 to 90% of our projects are residential, but inevitably, I think working in more commercial spaces and multifamily housing scenarios makes a lot of sense for the biggest impact.
So how do you guys plan on growing into those certain areas?
Yeah, totally. The way that I'm really approaching it, because this is sort of all falls on me in my role as the VP of Sales and Design, is looking at, a lot of people don't have budget for landscaping, right? If you go to a big company, you say, well, what are you spending on landscaping? We're going to have a really hard time beating that because they're paying somebody, $20 an hour maybe to mow the lawn every 2 weeks. That's a pretty low cost, ongoing thing. But a lot of companies have a huge budget for employee retention and for employee satisfaction. And in a world where people are trying to incentivize coming back to work, you really need to have a decent incentive to come back to work when your couch and your Wi-Fi are perfectly fine. So taking that route of knowing that this has a massive positive impact on the mental health of people, the physical health. I mean, our microbiome, when we interact with soil, is so much more resilient than when we are in these sterile environments. And so capitalizing on that and selling that makes a lot more sense than saying, don't mow your lawn anymore. Instead, spend tens of thousands of dollars on something that's going to require way more maintenance. It's a hard sell.
Understood. Well, that's exciting, though. I mean, what trends are you seeing in this space right now? Is there a lot of attraction to one aspect of it than another?
Yeah, there's a lot of, we're seeing, I surf on, I use Zillow like social media sometimes, just what's out there. And things like mature fruit tree orchard and potager garden or raised beds or, this infrastructure greenhouse adds a lot of value to a home. And so we're seeing that trend. I think in the past I've definitely gotten the feedback from people of oh, this is gonna, make this harder to sell. And that is less and less true as people are recognizing that the fragility of the food system and also our disconnection from the world around us is just becoming more and more amplified by all of the economic, political, all of the inputs that we're seeing. And so it's adding a lot of value to the homeowner. And then I think, as I said, the trend of needing a more enticing sell than just a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen when you're looking at an apartment. It's well, we also have, it's pleasant to walk up to and is buzzing with life and pollinators, and you can walk up the front walk and there's native birds, and there's this feeling that you get when you walk through a landscape that isn't just a grass lawn that's sprayed with glyphosate to keep the dandelions out. When you have more color and life, you feel such a deeper connection to the world around you, and I don't know, I think it's very grounding. So we're seeing that trend in a huge way, and that's made things a lot easier, on all scales, whether it's a long-time homeowner that's I finally want to sell, and we're hey, there's a lot of water runoff issues in Worcester, let's do a permeable patio, it'll exponentially increase the value of your home and isn't going to cause a bigger problem for your neighbor than they already have, to new builds where it's hey, skip the boxwoods and think about just putting some natives in from the start. I do a ton of that. Ripping up boxwoods, rhododendrons, and burning bushes and azaleas and replacing them with native shrubs for a foundation garden, including blueberries, is our bread and butter, really.
A lot of those plants that you described are literally around my house right now. So yeah. Maybe I'll call you after this to get some insights as to how I can improve mine. But along those lines, though, I've never heard of anything like this before in my area. So, how would I, as, let's say, a homeowner, if I was going to be selling my home, how would I contact you guys, or how would I find you, you know what I mean, to educate myself and maybe create this as a possibility?
Totally. Yeah, so we're Reimagined Roots, and we're on all the socials and website and all of that. And we do have a number of blogs and a great newsletter, and something that is really important in this line of work is making sure the education is available. So we do a lot of talks at libraries and things like that. But nationally or internationally, the buzzwords of organic landscaping and permaculture design, foodscaping is a big one. I think there's like 1,200 foodscaping companies in the country, in the US, but you could look it up. Maybe one is nearby. Yeah, so those are sort of some of the buzzwords, and asking a landscaping company about using native plants. And really, I think the biggest piece is that gap of education. Just inquiring about it and being curious. That's one of our core values at our company, is conscious curiosity. And so being like, what don't I know that I don't know, if that makes sense. So like, there's just so much more out there. Once you dive in, you're like, oh, there's like a whole world that I am completely unaware of. And so starting to just ask those questions, whether it's to your landscaping company, to, the internet, whatever your preferred search engine is, and just getting curious and knowing that, that there is another way to go about things that isn't so singular. The rhododendrons are lovely. They fill the space, and that's sort of what they do, and that's sort of it. And so there's a lot more to it. The first principle of permaculture is also observation. And so if you're curious about what might be possible, going out to going on a hike, going to a meadow, going to these kind of naturally occurring environments, getting a plant ID app, and starting to identify things that you see that you like. And you may find that they're invasive. You may find that they're native. You may find that they would do perfectly in your backyard, that you just continue to mow and you hate mowing and you just want to do something else. So starting to inquire, I think, is a really important first step.
Awesome. So do you guys do everything from the initial design, install, like full scale, turnkey?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So folks come to us, they submit a request and express what they're interested in. We start with a consultation, and that is a value add service. When they leave, we give them basically a one-pager of all of the recommendations we made on site. In this space, we do have a number of folks that are kind of DIY. As they get into it, they say, oh, this is kind of a lot to DIY. Maybe I'll just hire you. But a lot of people come to us saying, I want to do this myself. So giving them resources to say, hey, you can totally just do this yourself. Absolutely. And we also want you to do this yourself, because the impact we want to have, we cannot have as a singular company. And then we'll create a full landscape design. It's a really sleek 3D rendered model of the property and all of the additional work that we would put into it. And then we can go into installation. A lot of our installations are phased. So, starting with hardscaping one year and maybe doing some landscape carpentry the next year, and then the fine gardening the year after, or something like that. And then we have a full stewardship department. And I'm actually taking a class right now. We are always learning new stuff, but I'm taking a class right now that talks about how stewardship is active and maintenance is static. And so landscapes appreciate over time. And so the stewarding of the landscape and being there to support it as it is ever changing is kind of the whole role of a human. And so yeah, we have a whole department to both educate people on that and just do it for them if they're not interested in doing it themselves.
Awesome. So how many jobs do you guys do a year?
That's an awesome question, and I'm so excited for the winter to run all of our numbers again and be like, what the heck just happened? But I think last year we did like 180 or something. Wow. With an average job size of like $4,000. Some of them are way, way more. Some of them are a couple hundred. And so it really is quite a wide range. But I think it was like 180, and it might have been 180 active clients, and then some of those clients were recurring maintenance jobs. So
understood.
Yeah.
So what do you feel like is like the biggest challenge holding you guys back?
Oh my gosh. Well, you caught me on a great day, and everything's going really smoothly, knock on wood. So. But I mean, hiring has been hard. Hiring is hard because culture is really important to us. We don't want to have that churn. We don't want to have people that are just like coming to work because it's a job and that's it. We really want to have like that emotional buy-in into understanding that what we're doing is actually really, really important. And so I was listening to something that was talking about how, it was actually Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was saying how as he's gotten older, he's really focused on how is it that how can I make a positive impact on the world around me every day? You know, maybe it's like spending time with his granddaughter or doing something nice for a stranger or whatever. And every day that our crew goes out, they're like putting native plants in the ground where there was otherwise a barren ecosystem that was like actively working against what the ecology wants to do. Or they're reconnecting a family with growing their own food, or they're creating a living space that will be appreciated for generations and generations to come. And so we really want to find people that can get behind all that and not just like get in a truck, clock in, get a couple hours of work, clock out, not care. So hiring is hard, and being able to be selective with like our core values and our mission, and really like, okay, we only hire people that fall into these categories, and that's just that. We have amazing people. So I think that scaling is just like, you know, it's like, oh, we need to hire more people. That's kind of a whole thing. It's not just a single Indeed ad, take the first person that signs up. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I completely understand that. If you really enjoy what you're doing, right, you're going to come with a way different attitude to work every day than if you're just kind of clocking in and clocking out. So I think that speaks a lot to the company itself and the work that you guys provide your customers with as well.
Yeah.
So where do you see Reimagined Roots being 6 to 12 months from now? Like what's the short-term 1-year goal?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What are some of those?
Yeah, so I'm actually looking right behind my computer. I have a 1 year and a 10-year. And last year, our 1-year goal was 800,000 in revenue, and we're on track for like 780 probably. So that's pretty close. And 10 years is 10 million, 20 employees, 6 trucks. So we bought a 3rd truck this season. So, you know, we're ahead of the ball on some things. I think 6 to 12. We're definitely going to kick off next season with 2 installation crews and a full maintenance crew. So that's awesome. That's 9 employees probably. And, you know, this year we have an admin person, which if anybody who's listening to this is like, I maybe need an admin person, just hire the admin person. It's really helpful. But yeah, I think 6 to 12 months from now, we're going to be kicking off strong with a lot of new hires. And so that's going to be a big part of the winter is like, you know, finding those people and setting them up for success. We have 2 people right now that one person is our foreman and is in leadership, and he's training the foreman for that second crew. So just bringing on the folks that they're going to lead is going to be key. And yeah, probably doing $1 million next year, which will be great.
That's exciting.
Yeah. And it's a profitable $1 million too. So that's the key. People are like, I did $1 million. I'm like, yeah, show me the profit and loss. But
there you go. P&L. What's the P&L?
Right. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, before we wrap up, I guess, thank you so much for all of the insight into this. I've been educated, and I'm sure the listeners will definitely be educated with this. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think, you know, I really appreciate that question around how to like learn more about it. And there are the basics of like follow us on Instagram, but also really embodying that mindset shift with, you know, being curious and look into permaculture, you know, the design science that really drives this, because it can facilitate a mindset shift that touches on all sorts of parts of your life. And you'll look at the space around you in a new way and think, oh, maybe I don't need to work as hard to make the space around me kind of work for me and me integrate into it. And it doesn't have to be this battle like with the world around us, whether it's your lawn or, you know, your finances or whatever it is. There's a lot of ways to re-engineer the system so that it makes more sense for you and you just kind of live an easier, more enjoyable life. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, educate yourself. Always be learning. So thank you so much, Lucy, for all the insights into Reimagined Roots. And I hope that you guys have much success in the next year. And in the next 10 years, I hope you get to that 10-year goal. And maybe even within 5, that's changed and doubled or tripled in size. And I mean, that's the ultimate goal, to just spread the word and continue to grow your company. So thank you so much. And I can't wait to see what you guys do.
Awesome. Thanks a bunch, Dominic.